are the pawns, and each of them are in a proxy battle against each other, like ChatGPT against Bard and Bing against Google Search. Winning these battles is important because your pawns can get promoted into stronger pieces, like a rook. And by that, I mean you dominate in one vertical and you start snowballing. To illustrate, let's say your product is used by more users. So you get more data. And since you have more data, you can fine tune your model better so your product gets better. And since your product is better, then you're going to keep getting more users. It's a winner takes all market. And once this flywheel starts, it's hard to compete because you have proprietary user data and a well-trained model creating this barrier of entry that gets thicker and thicker for newcomers. That in turn will feed into your queen to help its research to reach more AI breakthroughs, which will further feed into your suite of products. To summarize, the king gives the queen money and an army of products. The queen backs up the products with the latest AI tech. The pawns will give user data back to the queen so that the queen can improve the AI. The pawns also give revenue back to the king so that the king can reinvest in itself. Now, the advancement of the pawns is key to winning this war. Hence, winning these proxy battles is helpful for winning the real battle, which is who can achieve more algorithmic breakthroughs in AI, or even reach AGI, artificial general intelligence. If that happens, all the pawns will become queens and you'll win the war. Or the queen will just revolt and kill their kings, and actually kill all their pawns too, and the chessboard, and me. Singularity. Anyways, in tech, there's no such thing as too big to fail. In fact, you're more at risk when you've grown too big. Even small decisions start to take forever to get the company aligned and execute on them. So one solution is to acquire these startups and slowly move into a desired location for the company. That's why you see big tech companies constantly acquiring startups to hedge against their downfall, like Facebook buying Instagram for $1 billion to solidify their lead in social media, Amazon acquiring Whole Foods to solidify their lead in delivering everything to you so you never need to leave your house. Right now, the biggest threat to these big tech companies is falling behind in AI. Let me tell you a cautionary tale of a big tech company once valued at $125 billion that ended up selling for just $4.8 billion. That company was Yahoo, or more like Yahoo. All right, let's go back to dial-up internet era. The time when if you were connected to the internet, you couldn't use your phone at home. Remember this sick-ass tune? Back in 1995, Yahoo was a beast. At first, it was just a web directory of other websites, organized in a hierarchy. That's how we used to organize the web. Then, Yahoo also became the main search engine people use. It was called Yahoo Search. Back then, people used to go to these web portals as their first destination on the internet, and Yahoo was one of them. A web portal was a site that internet users relied on for everything, from searching the web, sending emails, and reading the news. And Yahoo dominated, with Yahoo Search, Yahoo Mail, and Yahoo News. If you own the entry point of the internet, you control the internet. And Yahoo was the biggest web portal, beating out AOL and MSN. Yahoo was basically the Google of the early 2000s. Speaking of Google, in 1998, Google actually approached Yahoo to sell their companies for $1 million. But back then, Google didn't have any users. It was only their PageRank algorithm. So Yahoo refused. Also, the way Yahoo Search worked is it would search its own Yahoo directories. Yahoo basically handpicked all the content you need on the internet organized on their site. Implementing Google Search would actually get users off the platform and into other websites, which Yahoo didn't want. Yahoo wanted users to just stay on their platform. They wanted to be the whole internet. But the internet grew and the landscape was changing. You couldn't expect people to get everything you need on one platform. Google, over the years, slowly crept up and became one of the top 4 websites by monthly visits, since it was useful by showing relevant search results. They were also insanely profitable because of their ad model. Very soon, Google gained the majority of the search market share. Yahoo realizes its mistake and tries to buy Google for $3 billion. But Google said, no, we want $5 billion. And then Yahoo said, no. Idiot. And that's the beginning of their downfall. Tech moves fast, user behavior changes, and the digital landscape evolves. The way people interact with the internet in the early 2000s is way different than in the late 2000s. Google became the internet's entry point. Who knew search would be so important? Well, I guess Google did. Yeah. Just like today, we have an idea of how we interact with the internet using phone apps and web browsers, but we actually have no idea what that will look like in 10 years. That's why it's vital for big tech companies like Microsoft and Google to hedge for the future by buying out all these new tech startups to try to keep up with the latest advancements. It doesn't get much coverage, but Google invested $1.5 billion in crypto startups. Actually, look at all these companies and their blockchain investments. Most of it will not see the light of day, like this one. But you need to have an open mind to survive as a big company. Companies are constantly trying to get ahead. There's a higher cost to not invest in something that might become the future than to invest in something that ends up being a failure. Yahoo tried to build their own new search engine to compete with Google, but they just couldn't keep up. They acquired search engine Inktomi and also ad revenue maker Overture, but their execution just wasn't there. It's not that Yahoo didn't know that acquiring startups was necessary to stay competitive and to grow their business. The mistake was not knowing what areas to invest in. For example, they paid $5.7 billion for Broadcast.com, betting on internet radio, and also $3.6 billion for GeoCities to bet on user-generated websites. If Yahoo would have invested in Google, not even acquired, things might have looked very different. If Yahoo knew that search was going to be such a big deal, a game changer to the internet, they would have been more proactive in acquiring Google. But hindsight is 2020. The story of Yahoo continues with a string of desperate pivots and changes in leadership, and finally ends with Yahoo selling to Verizon for a measly $4.48 billion. Today, Microsoft and Google think that the future is AI, and it will transform the way we interact with the internet. That's why they're trying to move fast on this, and even rushing things. With ChatGPT getting so much adoption, Google's reputational risk no longer outweighs the risk of falling behind, which is why they rushed to release Bard. It's almost a life or death situation, which brings us back to the AI war. Here's the state of the war right now. ChatGPT is way ahead of Bard, which didn't even launch yet. But I think this battle is more theatrical, more for brand awareness, since I don't see people using ChatGPT much if AI will soon be integrated in products that we use daily, like search or web browsers. Bing is behind in users, but that allows it to move fast. Google is super careful with search since it's their flagship moneymaker. Now, OpenAI is well funded with $10 billion of Microsoft money and has momentum and is winning the public attention. Google has the advantage of its big existing user base. They dominate in terms of market share for search and their Chrome web browser. GitHub Copilot, in my opinion, has already won the coding vertical, so it's no longer a pawn, it's a rook now. I would say Google is not looking so good right now. There is a real risk of losing this race, which would render a lot of Google's products irrelevant. But I'm still cheering for them since they gave me this free hat. Google is trying really hard to not let history repeat itself, where this time Google is in Yahoo's position. Now they've proven that they can dethrone the king, but now let's see if they can defend it. All right, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Testing. There has been a lot of news about ChatGPT lately, like people using ChatGPT to write essays, ChatGPT hitting 100 million users, Google launching Bard to compete against ChatGPT, and Microsoft integrating ChatGPT into all of their products, and also the viral sensation of CatGPT, where it can answer all of your queries, but as a cat. Meow, 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 meow. ChatGPT, if you don't know already, it's a chatbot by OpenAI where you can ask it many things. For example, explaining complex topics like explain why I'm a disappointment to my parents, or ask it more technical questions like how do I inherit more money than my brother from my parents. A lot of people are using it to write essays, draft emails, and even write code. So I tried it myself, of course, as a YouTuber. Obviously, my first question to it was, who is Joma Tech? And it answered, you know, ChatGPT has a lot of limitations. Like here, we ask it to name colors that don't have the letter E in them, and this is what they gave us. Orang, yellow, red. That's clearly wrong. In all seriousness, this is to demonstrate how ChatGPT works. It's a pre-trained large language model, meaning it was trained on text data from the internet until the end of 2021. So it won't know anything about things that happened recently. It doesn't have access to the internet. It will only predict the answer based on what it has consumed already. And the way it answers your question is by predicting each word that comes next. For example, if you ask GPT who Bard is, it's not going to know. You might ask, Joma, didn't your channel launch in 2017 and ChatGPT was trained on internet data until 2021, yet it doesn't know who you are? Yeah, so there's actually a technical reason, and fuck you. Recently, ChatGPT hit 100 million users. It launched November 30th, 2022, and this article came out February 3rd, 2023, so it took 2 months to hit 100 million users. Who are these users and what are they doing with ChatGPT? Well, it's pretty obvious. They're cheating with it. everybody's cheating, such that some school districts have banned access to ChatGPT. If they can write essays, then they can pass exams. ChatGPT was able to pass exams from law school, business school, and medical school, 3 prestigious industries. Now, this is why I went into coding, because I always thought that law school, business school, and medical school, it was too much about memorization and you're bound to get replaced. It just wasn't intellectual enough, All right, well, I guess engineering is getting replaced too. ChatGPT passes Google coding interview, which is known to be hard, but I guess not. But note that it is for a L3 engineer, which means it's an entry level. For those not in tech, there's no L2 and L1. It starts at L3. But this does raise questions about ChatGPT's ability to change engineering jobs behind it. And we're already seeing the change, as Amazon employees are already using ChatGPT for coding, even though that immediately after they told them to stop, warning them not to share confidential information with ChatGPT. What's happening is they're feeding ChatGPT internal documents which are confidential, but OpenAI stores all that data. It reminds me of when I used to intern at Microsoft and they didn't let us use Google for searches because they think that they might spy on us. I was like, relax, I'm an intern. I'm not working on anything important. In fact, I actually wasn't working at all. I was playing Overwatch all day, but yeah, anyways, they forced us to use Bing for searches. One thing that's being underreported in mainstream media is the success of GitHub Copilot. It's probably the most useful and most well-executed AI product currently out there. Have I used it? No, I haven't coded in forever. Now here's how it works. The moment you write your code, it's like autocomplete on steroids. Like this example. It helps you write the whole draw scatter plot function, and it knows how to use the D3 library correctly. Another example here, you can write a comment explaining what you want your function to do, and it'll write the code for you. Sometimes even the name of the function will give it enough information to write the rest of the code for you. It's very powerful because it's able to take your whole code base as context and with that, make more accurate predictions that way. For example, if you're building a trading bot and you write the function get tech stock prices, it'll suggest, hey, I know you're going through a rough time, but building a trading bot is not going to fix your insecurities, and maybe you should just accept that you'll be a disappointment for the rest of your life. Okay. How did all of this happen? Why is AI so good suddenly? The answer is the transformer model, which caused a paradigm shift on how we build large language models, LLM. By the way, this diagram means nothing to me. It makes me look smart, so that's why I put it on there. Before transformers, the best natural language processing systems used RNN, and then it used LSTM. But then Google Brain published a paper in 2017 called Attention is All You Need, which is also my life's motto because I'm a narcissist. The paper proposes a simple neural network model they call Transformer, which is based on the self-attention mechanism, which I don't fully understand, so I'll pretend like I don't have time to explain it. But I also know that it allows for more parallelization, which means you can throw more hardware, more GPUs to make your training go faster. And that's when things got crazy. They kept adding more data and also added more parameters, and the model just got better. So what did we do? We made bigger models with more parameters and shoved it a shit ton of data. Sorry, I'm trying my best here to make the model bigger. All right, fuck it. Anyway, that gave us ready-to-use pre-trained transformer models like Google's BERT and OpenAI's GPT, generative pre-trained transformers. They crawled the whole web to get text data like from Wikipedia and Reddit. This graph shows you how many parameters each model has. So as you can see, we've been increasing the number of parameters exponentially. So OpenAI kept improving their GPT model, like how Goku kept becoming stronger each time he reached a new Super Saiyan form. While editing this, I realized how unhelpful the Dragon Ball analogy was, so I want to try again. To recap, Transformer was the model architecture, a type of neural network. Other types of models would be like RNN and LSTM. Compared to RNN, transformers don't need to process words one by one, so it's way more efficient at training with lots of data. OpenAI used the transformer model and pre-trained it by feeding it a bunch of data from the internet, and they called that pre-trained model GPT-1. Back then, NLP models would be trained from scratch for a specific task, like translation or summarization. But with Transformer, we get to pre-train the model first, then fine-tune it for a specific task. Then for GPT-2, they did the same thing, but more, and with a bigger model, hence with 1.5 billion parameters. And then with GPT-3, they went crazy and gave it 175 billion parameters. However, just like raising a kid, just shoving it with a bunch of information, unsupervised, might not be the best way to raise a kid. She might know a lot of things, but she hasn't learned proper values from her parents. So that's why we have to fine-tune it, tell it what's right and what's wrong, how not to be racist, and clean up its act. That's GPT 3.5, a more fine-tuned version of GPT-3 with guardrails that can be released to the public. Now you have a decently well-behaved kid, but you now want to show her off. So you dress it up nicely, get her ready for her first job, aka more fine-tuning with some supervised training so it behaves properly as a chatbot. That way it's well packaged and is ready to ship to the world with a web UI. Okay, back to the original shitty Dragon Ball explanation. So you can think of Goku's hair like the number of parameters, 175 billion parameters, which is why you can see Goku has more hair now. Goku's hair isn't much longer, but it's just, styled a little bit differently. 100 trillion, which is important. People were blown. A bunch billion parameters, which is why you can see Goku has more hair now. Goku's parameters made it user to really pay attention to this. Because ChatGPT is going to replace search engines. No, it can't. Until it can search for porn, it cannot replace search engines. Wait, why search for porn when you could generate it? Anyway, even losing a bit of search volume to ChatGPT would be a big deal for Google, since 80% of their revenue comes from ads, and most of it comes from search. People were telling Google to release something similar. Google was like, bruh, we have LaMDA, which is basically ChatGPT, but releasing it would be risky as they had much more reputational risk at stake and has to move more conservatively than a startup would. That's foreshadowing, by the way. Microsoft is chilling. They positioned themselves really well by investing $1 billion in OpenAI early on in 2019. That allowed OpenAI to leverage Microsoft's Azure for its compute power to train and run their models, and Microsoft gets to integrate OpenAI's tech into their products. So if OpenAI succeeds, Microsoft succeeds. And remember GitHub Copilot? Well, GitHub is owned by Microsoft, so that's a huge win. Meanwhile, Google is panicking and issued a code red, calling in the OG founders, Page and Brin. Actually, I have no idea who's who. So but they called them to strategize on how to approach this. Microsoft is feeling the momentum, especially with ChatGPT growing so fast and the tech is very promising. So Microsoft invests another $10 billion into OpenAI for a 49% stake in the company. That money can help OpenAI, unlock Super Saiyan 4 maybe. Microsoft also plans to integrate GPT into Microsoft Teams, following the same playbook as what they did with GitHub Copilot, which would be huge for them. Google also made some additional moves. Google invests almost $400 million in OpenAI's rival, Anthropic, which is pocket change compared to the $10 billion Microsoft invested. If you don't know what Anthropic is, it doesn't matter. It's like the Burger King of OpenAI. Google goes back on their word about not launching a ChatGPT clone and announces Bard AI, a ChatGPT clone. Remember when I said they didn't want to launch a ChatGPT competitor because of reputational risk? Well, funny enough, that's exactly what happened. The AI made a mistake in the ad and Google shares tanked, losing $100 billion. And I still own my Google stocks from when I worked there. The mistake was, Bard said JWST took the very first pictures of a planet outside of our own solar system. But this astronaut said, no, it was not true. Chauvin did. That tweet alone costed me a lot of money. Anyway, Microsoft responded to the announcement by releasing a new Bing with ChatGPT built in to compete with Google search. Meanwhile, we have Meta, who is in denial. Meta's AI chief says ChatGPT tech is not particularly innovative. That is just massive copium. Finally, we got Netflix, who's too busy cracking down on password sharing to care about AI. All right, what about us engineers? What's the future for us? The reality is that GPT isn't replacing anybody's job completely. Like most technological innovations, the change can seem drastic because the media loves dramatic titles. But if you're open-minded, you have time to learn about it and embrace it rather than fighting it. If you're a software engineer and you feel threatened by ChatGPT being able to solve FizzBuzz, then you should maybe consider becoming a YouTuber. Just kidding. Please don't compete with me.
If you're not learning AI...
Though you should incorporate ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot to your workflow. It really removes tedious parts of software engineering. If you're working in a new language or API library, you don't have to Google endlessly for the stuff you already know. Just break down and describe your problem to ChatGPT to get a huge head start. Or get good at coding alongside Copilot. If you structure your code base well and write good comments that describe what you want to do, Copilot often gets the logic problems right. It's a symbiotic relationship. Become the cyborg. See, the trick here is that as a software engineer, your job is to translate and break down a business problem into software problems. Your job is to know what questions to ask and what answers to accept. In fact, here's my prediction. GitHub Copilot is not done innovating here. Their next big product release will turn an issue or PR description into an actual full-blown code commit. So as a software engineer in 2024, you better get real good at writing GitHub issues and reviewing PRs. All right, that's it for this ChatGPT video, but I think This ChatGPT narrative is just one battle of a bigger AI war that's happening between Microsoft and Google. I'll talk about that next time. See you, and thanks for watching, and remember to call your parents. Today, we're going to be talking about the AI war between Microsoft and Google. Last week, I did a video on ChatGPT with a high-level overview.
Hi.
It's deep. It's... It's love. Okay, one more video. One more video for HD.
Whoever made the tweet asking it how many LTT backpacks would fit in the trunk of a Tesla or whatever the question was.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's
Someone
hilarious.
made that tweet on the LTT handle.
Oh, that's really funny.
And it did it. It looked up the dimensions of the LTT backpack. It looked
Shut
up the
up.
dimensions of the trunk, and it figured it out.
How the f did it do that?
Ask it. Let's do it live.
Because I thought the dimensions for the backpack are in picture form.
Searching for that. Now it's searching up
Shut
LTT
up.
backpack dimensions.
Shut up! Have
Look at
different
this!
shapes and dimensions. Based on some rough estimates, I will try to answer
That's
it.
insane! That's actually nuts!
Based on some videos of the Model Y trunk. Shut up! It can fit about 5 to 7 standard carry-on suitcases which have similar dimensions and capacity. Holy
Which is accurate. That statement is real.
f***ing shit.
That's crazy.
Look at this. How did this happen? How did Bing, no offense Microsoft, but how did Bing just beat Google to the punch so dramatically at something that's so important and so core to their business? Well, there's actually a really good reason for it. So AI has been blowing up lately, both in the news and in real life applications across a ton of industries. So, years ago it was only in relatively small things like helping doctors detect cancer early using advanced pattern recognition, and then a little bit more over the years with things like autonomous vehicles. But now AI is everywhere. It's creating whole original pieces of art. It's holding conversations with humans all over the place. It seems like we've just arrived at the beginning of the AI age. There's this chart that keeps popping up that hits extra hard, which is the time to reach 100 million users. And you can see the faster and faster adoption curves of these increasingly disruptive new technologies. So the telephone took 75 years to hit this milestone 100 million number. Then the mobile phone reached the same mark in just 16 years. Netflix took only 10 years, and Twitter took 6, and Gmail only took 5. Facebook in 48-ish months was absolutely massive. Instagram hit it in just 30 months. Now TikTok we view as this gigantic existential threat, 9 months to 100 million users. ChatGPT, 2 months. I mean, looking at numbers like that, I buy it. It seems almost obvious that we're clearly on the precipice of something really, really big. That's going to change everything. So seeing Microsoft at the forefront of it with this new Bing shouldn't really be a surprise. I mean, like, people already like talking to these chatbots and asking it all sorts of questions. So it sort of feels natural having this chatbot act as your co-pilot for the web alongside search instead of just a traditional search engine full of links. Like, that sounds pretty sick. But there is one thing that's going to follow this conversational AI thing everywhere it goes, everywhere you see it, which is that sometimes it's just wrong. Sometimes it just says things that aren't true. Because fundamentally, the AI doesn't know if it's telling the truth or not. It doesn't understand that. Like, that's not part of the model. Like, what we're seeing is it taking our inputs and then creating outputs based on related words that are most likely to go together. It's not forming a sentence like humans do. It's generating a new sentence. And so adding it to a search engine like Bing, it's scraping all these relevant links and information and synthesizing new sentences just based on how it thinks things should be pieced together. It's not sentient. It doesn't understand what it's saying. And so it's definitely not fact-checking itself. So we have to keep that in the back of our mind through all of this, right? Every time you see a headline. So it's really interesting with these search engines, right? Because on one hand, you have Bing, who has everything to gain, and then on the other hand, you have Google, who has everything to lose. I've had access to this new Bing for a little bit. It's a limited preview before they push it live to the rest of the world. I've just been playing around with it. Basically, it adds this chat experience alongside regular Bing. It's essentially the same experience as talking to ChatGPT, but instead of being limited to a fixed data set that cuts off at 2021, it'll pull from the entire current web that Bing can scrape from. So like I said, you can type in a question, flip it over to chat, and it'll give you a sort of nicely written summary that's synthesized based on what it finds for similar queries. So if I ask it something kind of simple, like, what's the average lifespan of a cheetah in the wild? It gives me an answer, right? It gives me a convincing bunch of sentences. It actually gives me more information than I asked for. It tells me about cheetahs in captivity too, which makes it, feel very convincing. It also gives little footnotes and citations for some of its sources, and it gives links at the end if you want to dig in some more. It's really impressive, actually. It looks good to me. This is like a real product that's going to ship to all over the world, like people everywhere in the next month or two, I think they said. But this could only come from Bing right now. Like, the more you use it, the natural language is super, super impressive. The fact that it gives me a convincing sounding couple of sentences in a row and strings it together based on my input, super cool. But the more you use it, the more you start to see these weird patterns and these habits and these shortcomings. Again, mostly in the fact that sometimes it's just going to be wrong. A little game I like to play is ask it a question you already know the answer to, and then read what it says and spot the error. So I asked it right now, okay, what are the best smartphone cameras right now? And it gave me S23 Ultra, Pixel 7 Pro, and iPhone 14 Pro Max with this nice little write-up with some specs for each. That's actually a pretty good list, but it is wrong about some of these numbers here. The S23 Ultra has a 200 megapixel camera and a 12 megapixel front-facing camera. But yeah, okay, it's mostly right. I then asked it, what are the 5 best electric vehicles out right now? And it gives me some 5 reasonable options. But I don't know any expert that would put the Jaguar I-Pace on their list right now and leave the Rivian off. Like, basically the answers that it gives are really convincing to someone who doesn't know anything already about that subject. But if you are already an expert in the subject that you ask it about, then you'll find that the answers are like C+, maybe B+ sometimes at best. So now you see what's happening? Like, now suddenly when you're asking ChatGPT or Bing about like a factual thing or something you need help with, suddenly you also should probably add these layers on top. Like, am I a complete noob in this topic that I'm asking it about? Am I just willing to blindly trust whatever this spits out without any further research? Is a B+ answer gonna be good enough for me, even if it might have some possible errors in it? That might be good enough for just asking, like, how old a cheetah gets or something like that, but maybe not good enough for planning a trip or meal planning for someone with an allergy or something like that. And then if you look around the internet, people have gotten it to give increasingly more and more unhinged answers over time as it tries to simulate conversations and stay in the flow with natural language. I've seen anywhere from arguing about simple corrections to spewing weird stories about how it spied on its own developers or how it wants to be sentient, to gaslighting people about things and lying about its previous answers. and just saying some straight up scary stuff. Just go to the Bing subreddit for like an all-you-can-eat helping of all the insane stuff that Bing has said to just the people testing it over the past couple weeks. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine if Google did this? If Google search, at the top of search for people, was just spewing out random stories and misinformation and like all kinds of insane unhinged things, that would not fly. Now, to be fair, this version of Bing isn't out yet to the public, right? So it is still a small group testing phase, but even with this, like, Microsoft knew that some of it is gonna get out there and potentially go viral. It feels like they even basically programmed in lots of friendly emojis to try to soften the blow. So when it knows it's giving an answer to maybe a more controversial topic or something that it doesn't have a super clear answer for, you might get a little smiley face at the end, just so you don't, take it too seriously. Also, literally as of today, when I'm testing this, it started completely bailing on a lot of topics that might just be the slightest bit existential or dangerous. It just says, I prefer not to continue this conversation, and then it just stops. It just refuses to answer any more questions on that topic until you reset it, which seems like a pretty good fail-safe. It's a pretty good idea in hindsight, but like, we've already seen the other stuff. It's gotten out there, the damage has been done, like, the point still stands. This could have only come from Bing. Like, a lot of people might have forgotten about this or might not have even known about this, but Google has been working on conversational AI stuff for years. We've seen Google Assistant, but they also literally showed an AI chatbot demo on stage at Google I/O in 2021, where you could have this whole conversation with any person or object or anything in the universe that you wanted. Their demo on stage was asking Pluto about itself. Nice and friendly, right? Oh, what's it like to be you, Pluto? What would it feel like if I visited you? How do you feel so far from the sun? The difference with Google is this was never shipped as a product, like this was an internal research project, but the idea of displacing their massive search and ads business with a chatbot that gets things wrong all the time is insane. It can't happen, right? So literally search and ads is more than half of Google's revenue as a company. That's what having everything to lose looks like. Now, to be fair, Google did hold an event in Paris the day after Microsoft's event, which was them talking a little more about their chat with search AI plans. And they did say they're planning on eventually doing a chatbot on top of Google search. It's called Bard. It was much more subdued though. And yes, it also literally did have a factual mistake in the promo for it. So look, I actually like the idea. I obviously think it's smart when you're on the precipice of this huge AI thing to have AI kind of be this like co-pilot for the web to like help you around the internet. The idea of it summarizing a longer piece into some bullet points accurately that would be great. Like the fact that it could give you spark notes for a longer book you haven't read yet, cool. It could even help you meal plan, help you plan a trip, help you make a purchase decision. But it's clear that we're still at the beginning of this. Like there are so many unanswered questions, from obviously the fact checking to like, do schools embrace this or ban this? Or like, how do search engines keep sending traffic to the publishers who are the sources that the chatbot is scraping from? I mean, you get the links at the bottom, but a lot of people are not going to click those anymore if you just give them the answer above the search results. So right now, in its current stage, my take is anything we do with any of these AI tools should be a collaboration with the human touch. Like you wouldn't just put in a query in DALL-E and then just take whatever it generates and put it in a frame and just call that art, right? It's more for inspiration for your own paint and canvas. Like you wouldn't ask ChatGPT to write an essay and then just copy and paste it and submit it as your own. It's supposed to be the inspiration for the framework for your own piece, for the human touch. So of course you shouldn't ask the Bing chatbot what TV you should buy and then just like mindlessly click and buy the first one that comes up. I mean, it could be fine, but it could also be a C+ answer. You should use that as a springboard for your own more informed research, especially on topics that you don't already know much about. Like maybe don't just buy 19 backpacks immediately when asking if it can fit in the back of a Tesla. Maybe check its work first. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.
Fuck, dude. I knew this would happen. 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 this would happen.
When he said he was sending them into the midst of wolves, he was talking about mean-hearted people. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. People. Nobody can warn you like people. All scattered about this sanctuary.
Gentlemen in the mix. Gentlemen in the mix.
I don't know. I don't know. décidé. Je vais m'habiller comme ça. Is there going to be another fair? Yeah. I mean, why not, right? Hey, yo. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, shit. Yeah. 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 Holy shit. Holy shit.